Yeah. Not bad.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah, that's keepable
usable.
at the end there, I'd say. And you were hitting really hard, so that was fucking good.
Right, so yeah, recording this single has been it's been difficult. It's been difficult but fun at the same time.
It's been an interesting process for sure. Being so autonomous with ourselves and kind of being left to it with our own devices. It's been some challenges. There's been some challenges, but it's been like such a fun process and such a good learning process for all of us, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely been the start of keeping the start of us keeping everything in house. You know, usually we go out, we track guitars with George. We for the EP we went to Middle Farm to track the drums, and this is the first time that we've actually just handled everything on our own turf, really. So for those of you who don't know, built this studio about 6 months, well, about 8 months ago. Finished building it about 8 months ago, and it's actually in the first floor of an office space. So, if you don't know much about studio design, that's not ideal. That is not ideal at all. That was in itself, considering I had never had any construction experience, going from that to this place.
It's good going.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
very
really
good
proud
going.
of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not it's not falling apart. We're doing
No,
good.
no, not yet. It's like it's only been a few months. It's gonna come down. But recording drums in here was the first real production that we'd done. So we didn't know how the room would actually sound with a kit in it.
Yeah.
Whether we'd be able to get a good reverb sound out of the room, which turns out no.
There's none at all. Yeah.
You can't do that in a 3x4 meter room. But we did get some really cool stuff out of it, and we know now that it's usable.
Nice. That must be really hard, that part.
Yeah.
That sounds so difficult.
Mate, I fucking love it because guitarists be like, "There's lots of notes. It must be hard." Mate, that's like I could teach someone to play that in like the third week of their playing drum.
It's just because of the like accent.
It's just 'cause all you're playing is 16ths, and you just put the 16th on the
It
china.
just sounds good.
It sounds cool. Yeah.
I think that's the main thing.
It's annoying that people go, "Wow, that's such a cool fill," and then I do that onto the hi-hat and splash. That is so much cooler of a fill, but everyone's like, "Would you do 16?" We all thought we were relatively clued up on the process as it was, but being left sort of this much on our own has just forced us to find out things and gain knowledge that going forward, as we probably use this space more for our real recordings and things, like we'll have way better knowledge about what we actually need to do to get a nice sound out of this place.
I think having George come in on the first day of recording to help us set up, that was a real godsend. Just getting him to come in, show us what, like, to be honest, he came in and showed us what was possible with the room. He came in, instantly saw the downfall, like the problems that we were going to come into with mic placements, not having enough space, helped us out through that, and just generally helped us achieve the best outcome we could have got. Really.
Yeah, and I think we're all really stoked on what we've got and how possible it was on our own. There's always a fear that you need to have X studio and X amount of gear and X amount of people there, but actually with the right bit of guidance and knowledge that we've gained over the years, we've come out with a product that we're all really stoked on. Oh
Yeah.
oh late.
Yeah.
Oh, well done, Sam, you fucked.
No, the rest of this wasn't bad though, because I was watching it at the time. Not bad.
Yeah, that's definitely
Yeah, that's keepable
usable.
at the end there, I'd say. And you were hitting really hard, so that was fucking good. Cool. Well, we got loads of usable stuff in there, I think. We got a fun little gap at the start. This is what we do, right? We let this man sweat his ass off and we go.
Yeah, so the biggest challenge with this single for me was this is the first time I've recorded live drums in this genre, like, ever. And then the recording I've done in the past has been very minimal compared to this. Nothing that's going out to be a full budget single or anything. So that in itself was a challenge. You pile that on top of the fact that we were very self-contained over here, taking care of all of the recording, all of the engineering, all of the edits and everything. They're all done by us. And I think Ryan can say that was a fun experience for you as well, learning how to edit.
Yeah.
I think mixed in with the fact that, because this was done towards the second half of the pandemic, if that's a fun way to put it, I was very out of practice anyway, and I think I wasn't. It's one of those things, you're never fully prepared for what you need until you've done it once to know how in time you need to be. Like
It was quite a learning curve on it, I
it
think.
was a lot. I hated myself after the end of the second day.
It was tough, like, in the sense of, I think, I wanted to be honest and critical with Kels about his drumming and make sure that we can get the best possible performance for the song. And I didn't want to overcook that when I was trying to use the opportunity for him to learn as well. Because in terms of what you were just saying about being as tight as possible and learning, how on the grid you have to be, or how, should we say, robotic you need to be able to record drums in this genre. I didn't want to push that too far to the point where, Callaway wasn't going to be able to get through the session, because we absolutely hammered it, didn't we? It was like a 2-day slaughter of like drums. Yeah. So it was some fine tuning in terms of how far do we push this in when we were tracking.
It's quite comical with the overtone.
Hi.
So I think your common thing is
You can definitely get a better
is
bass
like,
take.
your common thing is dragging in it, basically.
Okay.
I think.
I'll push it some more.
I think, like, for parts where you've got a rest, you come in quite well. Those parts, once you've had a break, you come in for a while pretty good, and then it seems to be that you start dragging after that.
Okay.
Is what I've noticed.
Maybe it's keeping up the intensity.
Yeah, I think it is, because when we were talking about those sections where there's like, really intense kicks or like really intense snare rolls and stuff, it's like those are the parts where I think you struggle to keep up because you're getting so tired or whatever. Yeah. And I think I will know from the album, but I think for now it's a case of we feel quite good about how we handled that whole session. And Kels, as far as I'm concerned, came out feeling a bit deflated, but also realising actually I know where I need to be now.
Yeah, it was like, as much as to be honest, the session sucked for me because it was that wall of just, right, okay, you're not getting this, keep going until you get it. Again, like I've spoken about this a couple of times already. Like, it's just an amazing learning experience to see. Right, I know for next time exactly where I need to be getting to before I get into the studio, and obviously you get the other things like. Hopefully going forwards, assuming that there's not another global pandemic, I won't be ever as out of practice as I was there. But yeah, it's already just from how much that process sucked, I feel much better about going into everything else in the future, because I feel like I've learned so much of the downfalls already, and I know how to prepare for them and work better around them.
There you go, look. It's like, it's very faint, but it's that one there.
Amongst all the dipples.
Move your finger. Fuck it up.
It's like rip.
Mate, good thing we're almost fucking done.
So for the kit on this one, it's a Mapex Armory series drum kit. It is a 22-inch kick drum, a 10-inch rack tom, a 14-inch floor tom, which I have on my left, and then a 16-inch floor tom on my right. And the snare is a 14-inch Matt Halpin signature Wraith from Mapex. Cymbals wise, I was running 14-inch extra dry hi-hats, Byzance, a 10-inch dual splash, a 18-inch dual crash, a 21-inch polyphonic ride, which is one of my favourite cymbals ever I've discovered, the Matt Halpin double down stack, 20-inch traditional Byzance crash, and then the Matt Halpin signature Equilibrium China, which sounds dry as fuck, but is amazing.
Hey, well done for remembering all of that.
Fucking hell.
On 8 out of 10 cats does countdown. That's the one. Mate, he's fucking funny, isn't he? Oh. Right, you ready?
How about I don't spit on you when we're having sex tonight? Good luck trying getting in without any spit. Right, let's go.
Yep. I think whilst running the session from in this room in the actual studio and not seeing Kellaway and just using talkback, I think it was kind of weird for me at first, because if I was with Kells and we were in the same room, I actually feel like I've got a bit more of a connection and I can see what he's doing and I can do that. But just going based on what I had in the DAW and what was coming through on the tracking session, was kind of a blessing and a curse, because I could just say, right, well, you know, you're off by X amount and that section was, you know, you weren't hitting hard enough or whatever. But I think it would have been a little bit more beneficial if I was able to see what was going on. And that was definitely like a challenge throughout that process. But by the end of it, I was in the room with Ben most of the time and we were kind of like in a nice flow by the end. And I think to start with, it was the biggest challenge was, you know, running through a whole take and looking back and thinking, right, how much of this have I got that's usable in post? Like, do I need to edit and take some of that section? Can I use the whole take? You know, what parts are there that I can utilise? Because with modern tracking, it's like everything has to be quantized and, you know, like gridlocked basically, so that everything's perfect. And it was definitely a challenge for me knowing, you know, what was usable and what wasn't. And I certainly came across a lot of things in post that I was like, why didn't I go back and change this? Or, you know, why did I track so much of this section? You know, so I think that was really tough for me on that side of things. Obviously, having tracked guitars before for some of our previous work, that I'm quite comfortable with. But working with live drums is just a total different beast. A lot of people sit at home and they use like program MIDI drums like GGD, and they think that, you know, live drums comes out of the box looking like that, and the truth is it doesn't at all. It's a lot more ugly and unpolished. You know, even if you had the best drummer in the world, having like raw track drums just doesn't come out the same as it does like that. You know, you've got mic bleed that you've got to try and get rid of when you're trying to edit, and if you're trying to quantize things, it's like it all kind of overlaps and it's a big struggle. So yeah, there was a lot of things I had to learn, and George was really helpful throughout that process. There were quite a few occasions where I'd send him what I thought was like the finished edit, and he'd just come back saying, actually, I can hear this, or there's a bit of bleed here, or go back and solo your whatever mic and listen to this. And yeah, it was just a really good learning curve for me. And I'm hoping that when we track next time, it'll be a real smooth process for me in edits. And I also want to get Kels involved in that, so it's kind of like now me passing on the knowledge as well. So I'm excited for that, and hopefully if we do something like this in the future, we can talk a bit about that too. Right, you ready?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait. I fucked something. I fucked something up. Sorry, it's my bad. My bad.
Brian, that was the take, and you fucked it.
Yeah, you know
That's it, boys. Gone now. Let's
Game
quit for the
over.
weekend.
You can fire me if you want, Kels. Guitar and bass. We're quite sort of well oiled in the sense of we've done it before. We did it first with the singles, so Hex and the Serpent, and that was my first time tracking guitars for our material at home in my own space. So there was a few challenges when we did it the first time, but this time it was, much smoother process. Kels just cracked on with it. I didn't really need to do too much, other than just glance over the DIs after they had been tracked and just check for any, editing problems or pops, crackles, or any digital noise or something like that.
Actually, what it was, to be fair, was just the editing process. The tracking process, to be fair, especially the way I did it, the tracking process doesn't take all that much skill, as long as you can fret a note and hit hard and clear and then piece it together. Because I'm not about to say that I recorded all of the riffs perfectly. I had an interface, I borrowed Els's bass, and I know that I've got a lot of the same understanding as Ryan when it comes to that stuff. So I was like, as long as I'm hitting clear, trying to get me in time, and then I'll move stuff around afterwards. There's no reason to pretend that.
No, I think with bass, as anyone that's watching might know, with this genre, it's got to be high intensity in terms of velocity. So unless you're trying to convey some kind of dynamic with the bass, then there's no point other than hitting it really hard and getting the best pick attack and best tone that you can from how you're actually picking. And that's something that Kels developed over on the last two singles. I tried to give him some pointers because I'm not a bassist, but obviously doing a bit of production and recording myself, did a bit of research into what sounds best, and developed my playing style for guitar around that, as well as being able to help Kels develop a picking style for bass. Rather than Els doing the bass, Kels was doing it because it made more sense, as he had a better setup at home and he could do it within his own space, and it was someone that I probably thought had a little bit more knowledge of editing and using DAWs in the way that we need to. So that was why Kels was doing the bass over Ellswood. But we're looking at doing something for Els in the future. Just depends on what he can do, in his own space. But guitars wise, pretty much the same as Kels. I mean, there's nothing too crazy going on. It's just hitting as hard as I can, and the challenges are just keeping the guitar in tune as much as possible. As when you're playing in drop F and you're using 80 gauge strings, it's if you pick it hard enough, the string just goes completely out of tune.
I still get nightmares about trying to tune that bass, because that's then an octave below what he's trying to record, and it's you're basically doing it on a whim at that point. Tuners don't pick up that low, so you're basically playing an F note on a MIDI piano and strumming along and going, does that sound like it's in tune or not? And that's about as much of a tuner as I have on that bass, which... Yeah, and then tracking the difference between an F and an F sharp on that bass is I'd forget which one. I didn't know which one I played, because they're almost exactly the same. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I can't remember the string gauge. Just something we'll probably pick up in another video. But it's literally just like, you know, telephone cable type
Oh,
shit.
it's
It's absolutely
Yeah.
enormous, and you can't hear, like, even if you distort the bass, you can't tell really what note's being played on the first few frets.
No,
Like,
not
it's
at all.
only until you go further up the range that you're
Mm.
up towards, you know, the octave that you can actually hear what the notes
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, for us, we've always wanted to do things as real as possible, same with drums, but we ran into some real difficulties with tracking bass originally in that tuning, and we did question ourselves, like, why didn't we just go for like a MIDI option or something, because it just
Yeah.
makes more sense. But I think now that we've got, you know, we've smoothed out the process and we've done it so much, I think I'd stick with the real bass option now that we've done it, and we just took it head on. But, you know, at first we sort of questioned that, didn't we? We were
Yeah.
like, have we made the right
What's the
decision?
point? Yeah, it ends up sounding worse the more realistic you try to track it. Really.
Yeah.
Especially bass. Like guitar, I think over the process we learnt with guitar where we can track riffs, we'll track riffs going forwards. But bass, unless it's something that, so like there's a riff in the song that's got a hammer on and a pull off and like stuff like that, you will track as a single phrase. But other than that, you are going to get the better response by just hitting as hard as you can, note for note, and putting it together
Yeah.
at the end.
And it's also thinking about things in isolation in the song as well. So like the section where in this song we've got the bass almost by itself, because you've just got some other stuff going on, like the drums and synths and things like that, but the bass stands out. Those sections you might want to think about, okay, do I need to play this, you know, more realistically or not? But in terms of sitting with the other instruments, again, it's about velocity and making sure that it's as undynamic as possible. It's literally
Basically,
just
yeah.
you know, a flat transient almost. So guitars wise though, other than that, I think everything's the same as Hex and Serpent for me, and I was tracking DIs at the same time as tracking through my Kemper and using just a stock tone. We weren't sure if we were going to use that tone, and it was the tone that we used for Hex and Serpent. Ended up using something totally different because George reamped them, but always do that from my side so that I just save myself effort down the line in case we want to use the Kemper tones. Just saves me reamping, and that was something that George showed me back when we first started tracking. Let's go for it.
Let's go.
I can build my life as a versus of blood.
Nice.
Let's go.
Pretty sick, boy, eh?
Pretty dope.
I can build my life as a versus of blood.
Yes.
Okay, we'll do 2 high mids, 2 low mids, and then a big low or 2 lows at the end.
Easy. Get the
Sound good?
chunky boys in there.
Get the chonkers in there, mate.
Fucking chonk.
The chunky wonkers.
The big chunks. Are you ready?
Yes.
Do you want me to leave those other vocals in that you just did? I'll just leave one. I'll leave one in for now so I don't blow your ears out.
Sounds sick.
Where's your downfall?
So around August last year, Jake decided to step down as our vocalist. Down to his personal reasons, he didn't feel like he connected with the band anymore. So that at that time put us in a bit of a difficult position because we had already started tracking for the album, and then we had a choice. We could either do the album with Jake and just release an album that we wouldn't be able to recreate live, or we could take the time, find a new vocalist, and create a single that was sort of showcase. Enter Hayden.
Hi.
Yeah, I think like we sort of were faced with a bit of a decision at that point for the album and the future of the band. We didn't really know whether it would make sense to track it with Jake or go off and look for somebody new, as we knew that Jake, was going to leave at that point. And obviously I think in hindsight we made the right decision. We did think about it a lot as to what was best to do, and logistically it just made sense for us rather than put all of our energy into an album only to switch vocalists afterwards, which just doesn't really make sense from a fan base perspective or anything like that, or people that are invested in what we do. we just decided that it's best to take the time whilst we were already struggling with coronavirus and lockdown and gigs not happening. We had the opportunity there to look for somebody new. It all fell into place at probably what was a difficult time for everyone, but actually was the right time for us within the music industry.
It all happened at the last possible point where it was still workable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we sort of fell on our feet in that case, and we started searching for vocalists. And yeah, we had a few people sort of show interest and try out, but we didn't want to advertise for that, and we sort of looked what was close to us within our circle, I guess. And I put Hayden forward initially as a possibility a long time ago, simply because like we played a game of COD together. It was that simple. And
Planted the seed.
yeah, and I checked out some of his stuff and was quite impressed. I thought he had a lot of potential. So, I mean, yeah, initially Hayden stepping into the band, how was that for you?
Mate, you know what? Yeah. It's like I was in the little leagues before.
Yeah?
Now I'm in the medium leagues. Nah. But like, it's been a really, honestly, tough adjustment because I've only been in bands that have been opening gigs before. And always just when recording, just doing one take and saying, yeah, that's hard, that's sick. And now it's like, no. No, you do 3 tracks. And then for your harmonies, you do 2 tracks.
It's about being, like, a bit more of a perfectionist and I don't know, like, you'll probably find, or you'll say that with some of your old projects, it's just, it depends who's in them and what their threshold is for quality, I guess. But we're all like, you know, we push ourselves really hard, and it was the same for drums, same with instruments, same with writing, every aspect. And when Hayden joined, I think we all knew that there was some work to do. Yeah. And I don't know, that must have been quite hard at first. I know that the first few months joining were quite rough in the sense that there was a lot of feedback and a lot of like stuff to work on.
It's a lot of feedback that I've never had before either. I've never really had the constructive criticism, because everyone's just kind of said before like, oh mate, that sounds hard, you know, without actually giving me any feedback.
Yeah.
Which is kind of frustrating looking back, because I built this ego that I didn't even know I had. And then Ryan comes along and he's like, actually, no.
Yeah.
Well, it's very hard, isn't it? Because it's hard to adjust to being able to receive proper constructive criticism when you don't have it when you don't have it regularly. I know a lot of people when you're in I don't want to say less serious bands, but bands that are less experienced.
Yeah.
They might give you some criticism, and they might say, oh, I think you could do a little bit better than that. But we are very hard on our criticisms because we want the best result possible. So we'll come back. I don't think you'd had someone come back to you and just say, this is trash. We can do better.
You know what? I sent Kels the chorus of a song that's on the album, and it's like, mate, I'm trying to think of a way to tell you this in a nice way, but I absolutely hate it.
It's important though. It's important to get those feelings across. Otherwise, it gets whitewashed, and people start to go. Like they start to think it's not as bad as it is. Or the person's not reacting as they are.
Yeah. I think for us, like, I'd probably say mainly from mine and Kel's perspective, it's been a bit of like a coaching and development thing, in that we had to sort of break Hayden down all the way down to build him back up again. And, you know, ongoing process because he's still learning and developing, but I think the first few months, I think, must have been quite tough. And for us, there was a lot of revising demo ideas, rewriting stuff, feedback, and then it was also like, you know, trying to get past that criticism element that Ben was talking about. Making sure that if we deliver negative feedback, we do it honestly, but we didn't want to hurt feelings because we're not there to say that someone's shit and just, you know, be an ass about it. We're trying to do it so that we can say, actually, it's really bad, you can do better, and, you know, give them the tools to do that. So
Well, and you can tell it's paid off. Like if you take the first, this single has been through vocally about probably 6 or 7
Oh, God,
demos.
yeah, that's actually...
About that.
Yeah.
Just, and every single time it's just got better and better and better and better, and then we ended up in this final tracking session, and like, not to say we didn't have our struggles with it, but the results were a lot more consistent and miles above where we were when we started.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I'd say even just from a personal perspective, like the jumps I've made vocally have been pretty significant. Still got a long way to go with like controlling the higher range, but I ain't mad about that because I know I'm going to put the work in because I have the tracking on that lot. And even just like the time it's taken to do things as well.
Yeah.
Like there's our album songs which we've demoed out which took like 2 revisions and were like very nice.
Yeah, we're starting to get into that flow now with moving forward, I guess. But yeah, I think as you know, there's still a way to go, but we were happy with where we ended up for the single, and getting you to that point took a little while, but it was
a lot of MIDI.
Yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it.
Studio vlog time, is it?
Yes.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
In fair.
2 days into fucking recording vocals, and now we'd start recording.
16 hours. You've not
It's
seen
good.
the struggles, you've seen the easy parts.
We can go back and show them the struggles.
No!
Hayden one take Connolly.
That's me.
Yeah, mate.
That's
What,
me.
everything was one take.
Everything. You know what? Yeah, the reason I'm in the band is because I just do one takes for everything. Like, easy tracking.
Where's your fall?
Oh, his vocals
Wispy.
do be warmed up though.
Yeah, I was gonna say you sound more warmed up now than you did a minute ago.
I love that I just
You didn't see
can't.
anything.
You didn't see anything.
Sorry. Let's just see what's that right there, Ryan?
Nothing.
I love that I just don't have the ability to hold out notes.
What's in fear is fake.
In fear they fake.
Nothing.
In fear they edit.
So, tracking wise, I brought my computer along to do some of this work, just because it made sense from a DAW perspective, really. And we plugged in just using SM7B, which we've used for all of our singles that we've self-recorded. The setup was dead simple. For me, it's literally just guiding Hayden along and trying to get the best out of his takes and think about where the most wear and tear is going to be on his voice throughout the session. That was quite tough for me because I'm used to... The only experience I've had producing vocals was with Jake, and only working with one vocalist and then, having changed vocalists now and having somebody else. It's a total different ballgame because I'm going from someone now that actually can sing, and Jake didn't actually do just full clean vocals. So trying to tackle that was hard, and I think trying to combine tracking session of doing clean vocals and screams, that was one of the things for me that I had to think a lot about. Was how much time do we spend on screams? What time of the day do we do that? Versus clean vocals.
Well, it's important to know as well when to give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh
absolutely.
God.
I remember the beginning of the first session, the first vocal session we did in here. I think we got to the point where we were ending on some of the high notes.
Yeah.
And you'd been doing an entire day of vocals. Your voice was starting to get worn. You were just trying again and again and again, and you were getting voice cracks and things like that. And it was hard to just put your foot down and go, I know we're early now, but let's just stop.
Yeah, it's quite a day.
It's not going to do anything for your voice to just carry on pushing and just doing yourself more harm. We won't be able to come back in and do a day 2.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a hard moment.
Yeah, and I think for Hayden will probably say a bit about it in a sec, but it was also probably a big learning experience for him to see where his strengths and weaknesses are in the studio, and in what order works best for him, because we tracked a lot of the main vocals quite easily, shall I say. They weren't too bad, and I was quite happy with how we were progressing, but the more challenging stuff, the really high harmonies, and I mean, screams wise, I didn't think you had too much of a problem.
Oh no, I was actually quite surprised because I think I nailed a lot of it.
Yeah, the screams
really
I was
quickly.
happy with the delivery on that, and you did that, quite quickly. But I don't know how most screamers do it, because again, I've got very little experience in producing with different vocalists. But I feel like screams wise, as long as you're asking what you need out of that person, getting good takes isn't too bad. And if they're late or early timings wise, that's something that you can likely fix in post, so it's not the end of the world. But with cleans, there's so much more to think about.
Oh god.
Because it's about tuning, and then timings, fixing those in post is not such a problem, but you might lose some of the character of the vocal. So actually, the performance there is really important.
No, definitely.
And yeah, that must have been a learning curve for you.
That was a massive learning curve for me. First of all, like the high harmonies are the highest things I've ever sang in anything I've done. And I remember when we were going through the demo process, Kels likes to MIDI stuff out, and he was just like, "Yeah, so you can do this," and I was like, "No, I can't." I was just like straight up, like,
That was a bit of a change of phrasing. It was like, okay, you can't do this. Okay, you will do this.
Yeah. There was no can about it. Like, I'm gonna tune you. Nah, but on the day I remember I struggled quite a bit. Just because I don't usually struggle with it, but on that day I was just like, I'm not hitting this note.
Yeah.
And I was like thrashing my throat for some reason because my technique wasn't good. And then Ryan was like, "You know what? Get some coffee, mate. I think that might sort you out."
Yeah. We thought a bit about we
Yeah.
thought a bit about what we could help, use to get him through the session, because we were like midway through or an hour in or something, and we were like, shit, his voice sounds pretty worn. Are we going to be able to utilise the rest of this day? And it was like, right, what can we do? Right, have a break. And then I was thinking, get something, lukewarm on his throat that wasn't going to clog up his cords, but was going to help sort of like keep the muscles, functioning and relaxed. Yeah. So literally just some black coffee was massive on it.
Yeah, mate, huge.
Saved the
Shout
session.
out my guy Azira. Is it Azira?
I can't remember.
No, it's Ness, isn't it?
Ness.
Ness.
But yeah, no, that was a bit of a pivotal moment for that session.
Yeah.
actually. Weird.
Because it's really weird because my voice completely bounced back after it as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I've got to have hot drinks before anything.
Until the balls have grown.
That was another keeper.
Had more balls to it. On top of another one, please, like that. That last one was really good.
Haha.
Until the balls have grown.
Well, that was even fucking better.
was it?
Give me
Cunt.
one more, please.
How was it being in a studio environment, tracking professionally for the first?
I'll tell you what, it was really weird because I've only ever tracked in bedrooms personally, mate. I tracked my last band, Glass Kingdom, with like me and my guy Kieran at his house. And I was like, you know what, we're gonna get some vocals down. And then we just did like one take for everything, and that was it. Nailed it. But here was a very different experience. It was really weird because, as I said earlier, like there's just so much more thought and planning going into everything. So like, whereas before there was like kind of leeway, like I might improvise some parts. With this, it's like, no, this is exactly what I'm doing this day. There's no confusion. There's no like, second thoughts. Like, no, we thought this out. This is exactly how we want the song to sound because of the meticulous demoing that we've done before. And I think that is probably the biggest thing that's helped me a lot because I was really, really nervous before. No, none of the boys know that because, like, obviously you look at me.
We had no idea.
Yeah, no
No
idea.
idea.
No idea at all, mate. And you know what? You look at me, yeah, hard nut, absolute unit, yeah.
Hang on.
How could he get nervous?
No idea.
But yeah, like, I'm not a nervous guy. I'm hard as hell, you know. But I was really nervous before. I didn't tell them that, but I just didn't want to. And I was really worried about tracking. I was like, I'm not going to be able to scream how I usually scream. Am I going to warm up properly? Is it going to go well? Because obviously, they've invested a lot of faith in me and what I do. So, like, that bounced back to me, and I was just like, if I sound bad, it's not good.
Pressure.
But, yeah, there was a lot of pressure. But I honestly think I smashed it. and now there's a lot less stress on me now. So I know if we went to track like next week, for instance, for the album song, I'd be fine, and I'd smash it.
It's that experience now, though, isn't it? Like you've had that experience of the process, so you know what to expect.
Yeah.
The next time and what to better prepare for, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah, and I'm just going to be experiencing so many new things with this band as well. Because I mean, you guys knew this when you asked me. Like, I've never toured before, so that's going to be a
Experience.
It's gonna be a fun experience. That, yeah, van time. Mate, I'm not gonna be able to get like a Turkish delight from Lidl every day. I've got
Well,
quite...
you might be able to. You can stop it a little.
Yeah.
Camera's gonna die in a sec. Have we got what we need for that
I
segment?
think so. That was really good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's
on
go.
We've been in
relaxed
fear.
at the end there.
Eat a dick.
We've been in.
Alright, let's have a listen.
It's about timing. That's going to be sick.
We're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
We edit it.
Alright, my man just died.
Fuck.